Krishna.
Hare Krishna, brother. Hare Krishna, everyone. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayet Srivatam Katha Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtanaha Hridayantaste Hvarani Vidunati Surissatam Nashtaprayesu Avadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhaviti Naistiki Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangu Langhayate Girim Yatkipatamaham Vande Sri Guru Dinatarinam Krishna Chaitanya Isaram Paramananda Madhavam. Hare Krishna, everyone. Today's chapter is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 8, and text from 9 to 12. So let's start from the text 9. Ekada Surichihi Putram Ankam Aropya Lalayam Uttamam Naruduksantam Dhrubam Raja Bhyanandata. Synonyms: Ekada, once upon a time, Surichihi, of Queen Surichi, Putram, the son, Ankam, on the lap, Arapyo, blessing, Lalayan, while patting, Uttama, no, did not, Arudikstatam, trying to get on, Dhruva, Raja, the king, Abhayanandatta, welcome. Translation by Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Once upon a time, King Uttanapad was patting the son of Suruchi, Uttama placing him on his lap. Dhruva Maharaj was also trying to get on the king's lap, but the king didn't very much welcome him. Next sloka, sloka 10. तथा तथा चिरी तथा चेके समानं तं सपत्यानतनयं ध्रुवं सुरुचिः शृण्वातो राज्ञा सस्यम् ahati garvita. Synonyms: तथा, thus. Chikesananam, the child Dhruva who was trying to get up, tam, unto him, sapatnyaya, of her co-wife Suniti, Tanayam, son, Dhruva, Surichihi, Queen Surichi, Sunvataha, while hearing Rajna of the king, Sa Irsayam, with envy, Aha, said, Itigalvita, being too proud. Translation: while the child, Dhruva Maharaj, was trying to get on the lap of his father, Suruchi, his stepmother, became very envious of the child, and with great pride, she began to speak so as to be heard by the king himself, so as to be heard by the king himself. Purport: the king, of course, was equally affectionate toward both his sons, Uttama and Dhruva, so he had a natural inclination to take Dhruva as well as Uttama on his lap. But because of his favoritism towards his queen Suruchi, he could not welcome Dhruva Maharaj. Despite his feelings, King Uttanapad's feeling was understood by Suruchi, and therefore, with great pride, she began to speak about the king's affection for her. This is the nature of woman. If a woman understands that her husband regards her as a favorite and is especially affectionate to her, she takes undue advantage. These symptoms are visible even in such an elevated society as the family of Swayambhava Manu. Therefore, it is concluded that the feminine nature of woman is present everywhere. Next sloka, sloka 11. Nambatsa nupate disnyam bhavan aradham arati na gruhitamaya yatvam kuksu api nupatmajaha. Translation. Queen Suriji told Dhruva Maharaj, my dear child, you do not deserve to sit on the throne or the lap of the king. Surely you are also the son of king, but because you didn't take your birth from my womb, you are not qualified to sit on your father's lap. Purport. Queen Suriji very proudly informed Dhruva Maharaj that to be the king's son was not the qualification for sitting on the lap or throne of the king. Rather, this privilege was dependent on one's having taken birth from her womb. In other words, she indirectly informed Maharaj that although he happened to be born of the king, he was considered and he was considered an illegitimate son because of his birth from the womb of the other queen. Text 12. बालसीवत नात्मनम् अन्यस्त्रीगर्भसम्भृतम् नूनं वेद भवान् यस्य दुर्लभेरुते मनोरथः. Translation. My dear child, you are honored that you are born not of my womb, but of another woman. Therefore, you should know that your attempt is doomed to failure. You are trying to fulfill a desire which is impossible to fulfill. Purport. The small child, Dhruva Maharaj, was naturally affectionate toward his father, and he didn't know that there was a distinction between his two mothers. This distinction was pointed out by Queen Suruchi, who informed him that since he was a child, he didn't understand the distinction between the two queens. This is another statement of Queen Suruchi's pride. नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णवस्ताय भूतले श्रीमद् भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे देवी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य दर्शकारिणे नमो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे हरे. Hare Krishna everyone. Thanks for joining and giving me the opportunity to speak on this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, this particular chapter is mentioned that Dhruva Maharaj went to forest. So, and so then if you go a little bit background, so there was, so this is we are talking about the descendant of Swayambhava Manu. And if you remember very, in the previous chapters, Sukdev Goswami already described the, so Swayambhava Manu had five child, right? So Swayambhava Manu and the Satarupa, they had five children. They have two sons, like they are like Priyavrata and Uttanapad, and they had three daughters, Akuti, Devahuti, and the Prasuti. So Sukdev Goswami already described so the descendants of Devahuti and other daughters. But this time, Sukdev Goswami describing uh, the descendants of Uttanapad. So uh, so as you know, Manu handed over his first daughter Akuti to the sage Ruchi, the middle daughter Devahuti, right? So we already had the pastimes of Lord Kapil Dev, and also then the Anand and the Devahuti married to the sage Kardama Muni, right? And the youngest son Prasuti is married to the Daksha Prajapati. Okay, so the Nautanapad, younger son of Manu and Satarupa, he had two wives. The wives of Uttanapad is Suniti and Suruchi. By his wife Suniti, he had a son named Dhruva. And By the from Suruchi, that is a son whose name was Uttama. So Dhruva Maharaj was a devotee of Vishnu, as mentioned in Vishnu Puran as well as in the Bhagavatam Puran. So, as you know, you know that pole star Dhruva actually the personifies pole star. So, Dhruva Maharaj was born as a son of great king. The king had two wives, and he begot children by each of them. One day, while Dhruva's stepmother was playing on the one day while Dhruva's stepbrother was playing on the lap of the king, Dhruva also wanted to play on his father's lap. So, um, so his father, Uttanapada, was sitting on the throne is a leisurely moment. So, in an affectionate mood, with one of the boys on his lap, his boy Dhruva, who was 5 years old, climbed up on his father's knee. But his father didn't receive him with any particular attention or affection. Moreover, Dhruva's stepmother came forward and chastised Dhruva Maharaj. She said, she said, speaking loudly so that everyone could hear, "You cannot sit on the lap of your father." That's what she loudly mentioned. Although you are his son, you are disqualified because you have not taken birth in my womb. Dhruva's stepmother was the favorite wife of the king, and since the king was more or less handpicked by her, he allowed her to speak out, although she was inflicting pain on his little son. "If you want to sit on your father's lap," she went on, humiliating the boy and exploiting her own position as the king's favorite, "you must first worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by penances and austerities. And then in your next life, you can take birth from my womb." That's what Suraj mentioned to Dhruva Maharaj. Then it may be possible. Dhruva Maharaj burst into tears and ran home, taking shelter of his mother, to whom he blurted out the whole story. So, then Dhruva's mother said, after hearing all the stories, "Sunidhi," she mentioned, "what can I do? Your father loves your stepmother as his favorite, and he does not even consider me. What the queen said was true. You must worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead." As you know, uh, when Suresh was chastising, so she mentioned, you have to take birth on my womb, and for that you have to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The same word Suniti also repeating, our only shelter is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. So if you want something, then you have to take the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's what Suniti mentioned. The queen said, whatever your stepmother is said is true. So then you must worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then it might be possible for you to sit on the throne. Dhruva is the warrior class, and therefore very, very fiery by nature. He wanted to get the kingdom which he deserved as the son of the king, and he would not settle for being reduced and insulted. So then he demanded, What must I?" That's the question for Dhruva Maharaj to his mother. He said, "What must I do to get the kingdom?" So in a passionate mood, the boy was ready to do anything to get what he wanted. But because he was just a little boy, he had to ask his mother what step to take. His mother answered him very nicely, like his mother said, "You must worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead." Since both his mother and stepmother had mentioned God, the Supreme Person, as the controller of this fortune, Dhruva intelligently asked about him, "Where can I find the God?" So then his mother replied that she only knew that saintly persons went to the forest to find him. Dhruva Maharaj immediately left his father's city and went to the forest. A person may doubt that a 5-year-old boy would enter the forest alone. But we shall see that we have no competency to judge a personality like Dhruva. His leaving home is only the beginning of the extraordinary exploits. As you'll see, there is no one in the history to compare with Dhruva Maharaj's personality, especially in the executing spiritual life. So, so in a summary, so what you understand from the sloka 9, so from the text 9, so what happens? So in the text 9, Dhruva tries to get on his father's lap, right? And then in the text 10, what happens? Suraj is envy and prideness. Suraj shows the envy and prideness, right? And then from the sloka 11 to 12, so what Suraj said, you do not deserve. You need to take birth in my womb. Your desire is impossible to sit on the throne or on your father's lap. So what you learn as a lesson from this from this discussion. So it mentioned as a king, Uttanapad should treat equally all the citizens, but he is unable to treat well to his own sons because he is handpicked, not like King Uttanapad does not like Dhruva Maharaj, but the king is more inclined to Suruchi, and in her presence, he could not welcome or entertain Dhruva Maharaj, right? So, being envy, Suruchi told that you cannot sit on your father's lap. Surely you are, discussed. You are also the son of the king, and therefore you should know that your attempt is doomed and failure. So what happened further? Um, so as Suresh mentioned, therefore you should go to and the Supreme Personality of Godhead in your to get the same position as the Uttama. And again, so actually, if someone worship the Supreme Lord Vishnu, then he or she will not take birth again, right? As you know, if at once, if someone surrender to Lord Krishna with open heartedly, with his completely full surrender to Krishna, right? So he should not take birth again in this material world. But see the arrogance of the Suruchi, what she mentioned to a devotee. Actually, she mentioned that if you worship the Supreme Vishnu, then he or she will take birth again in her womb. So this is her arrogance. But due to the arrogance, the woman Suruchi is saying that to birth again in the womb, she is giving too much importance to herself, and she is thinking somebody has to go through severe austerity to take birth on her womb. How arrogant, proud she is. When she was chastising Dhruva Maharaj, the king didn't speak or utter any single word to support Dhruva Maharaj. And that hurt Dhruva Maharaj even more. He was just 5-year-old boy. Those soldiers or other people stand there, even could not come forward to console or comfort the child Dhruva Maharaj. He was very angry and hissing like snake. So the elders should behave. So the lesson learned is, so the elders should behave nicely in front of the children. If the elders shows envy or bad behavior, then it will have very bad impact on the children. After this incident, Dhruva Maharaj goes to his mother Suniti's place, and Suniti already in neglected condition by her husband, and she was in pain, right? So now her son has been insulted by co-wives. Suniti's situation was as she is like clipper in the midst of forest fire. So Suniti could not bear the pain. Suniti took the small child, Dhruva Maharaj, on her lap and started consoling him. And Suniti immediately concerning about one thing. Now, this child, Dhruva Maharaj, has been insulted by my co-wife, so he should has anger, grudge towards Suruchi. So, Suniti's responsibility was to remove any traces of negative feelings. Being a responsible mother and being also a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so Suniti could immediately give good counseling to Dhruva Maharaj. So here are the mostly important points to understand. That's the instruction from Suniti to Dhruva Maharaj. The past he mentioned, do not wish any ill fortune or harm to others. Okay, that's the past instruction. We should not, if someone hurt you or someone did anything bad to you, at least as a Vaishnava, you should not wish any ill fortune or any harm to others. And the second he mentioned, whatever reversal or unfortunate event happened in our life, actually, it is our past misdeed, right? So whatever we are doing right now or in this life, this is our previous karma, right? We have to understand that. We should not blame anyone in this. If something happened to us, we should not blame to anyone, because whatever we are enjoying over here or enjoying or suffering, it is basically all of our previous karma. That was the second instruction to Dhruva Maharaj by her mother, by his mother. So the third one, she mentioned that since your stepmother, and mentioned that you have to go to, you have to go and worship the Supreme Personality of God and do the severe austerity. So then follow the same steps. You have to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then by the God's mercy, you will get whatever you want, right? And as you know, so as you know, Dhruva Maharaj asked where to find the God. So Dhruva Maharaj asked that one the enthusiastically, and Suni said, no, you have to go to the, and she, as per her knowledge, she mentioned, all the great sages used to go to jungle and forest to see the God. The mother replied. So then on Durga's mother replied, you have to go to the forest and perform the severe austerity and the penances over there. So, seeing that Dhruva was very much inquisitive, Lord Krishna sent Narada Muni to see about the situation. So, as you know, so this is the some kind, and in the future you have to learn this one, but I'm quickly going through for 1 minute. So, Narada quickly went to the forest and found Dhruva Maharaj. So, then we learned that how Narada Muni instructed Dhruva Maharaj, and then Dhruva Maharaj did severe austerity, and then Lord Vishnu appeared to him and gave the benedictions. And then what he offered, Lord Vishnu, Lord Vishnu said, "You will, your desire is have to, better kingdom. So even though you will get a kingdom which is far, far, far better than your grandfather, Lord Brahma." So Dhruva Maharaj, as you know, he just a second generation of Lord Brahma. So Dhruva Maharaj did rule the planet for 36,000 years, and then he get a Dhruva planet or pole star, right? So as you know, the pole star is situated in the Shatadip, where the some part of Shatadip, Lord Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu is personally resides there with Mother Lakshmi. And as you know, the second thing is that the Dhruva star, the Dhruva planet, all of the planets are rotating around the Dhruva planet. Even though the Dhruva planet is in the metal wall, but it's that didn't annihilate with the in the time of dissolutions. Okay, so Hare Krishna, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. I did actually, after for a month, I think I was in vacation. So thank you, everyone, for giving the opportunity. I'll stop here. Please forgive me for any mistakes I did while narrating the stories or the pastimes or reading the slokas. So please